Hello and welcome to this session. This is Farhat, in which we would look at a series of transactions that deals with the acquisition cycle. This will be considered a CPA exam simulation, or you could see something similar to it on the CPA exam. Now, how would this simulation, reveal itself? Well, it reveals itself in different ways. It could be a drop-down list. It could be that you have to look at certain events, transaction, documents, so on and so forth. In this session, I'm going to give you the transaction, and I want you to tell me what type of procedure that event is. For example, is this a test of detailed balance? Is it a test of transaction? Is it a test of control? Is it analytical procedures? For example, this way a drop-down box on the exam, and you would select from the drop-down box the corresponding type of procedure. Then you have to tell me what type of evidence being used. Again, this could be, they could give you a list of type of evidence, and you have to select the proper type of evidence. Then in the third column, so you'd have the statement, and you'll have three columns, something like this. Type, for example, this one will be type of evidence. This is type of procedure. And think about those drop-down boxes. Once you click on them, the options that you're seeing here will drop. Then the third one will be the audit objective. So now I hope you can see how this can be a CPA exam simulation. Okay, now in my situation, I'm going to have to show you the answer choices in a sense that I have to explain them to you. And what I suggest you do before I go over the answer, just pause the video and say, okay, I read this transaction. Do I know what type of procedures am I dealing with, the type of evidence, in which audit objective it is meeting? Again, you can always pause, play me until you kind of, okay, I'm on the right track. Now keep in mind, for any given analytical, for any given procedure, or for any type of evidence, you could be meeting more than one audit objective. That's not a problem at all. But at least you want to identify one or two that are correct, that are relevant. At least you're going to have one. So let's go ahead and start the CPA exam simulation. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
Hello, my name is Farhat. You are here because you are either an accounting student, a finance student, or someone who's studying for their CMA or CPA exam. Great. You are looking for some additional help, and we can help you. I strongly encourage you to visit my website, farhatlectures.com. I offer additional lectures, resources, including PowerPoint slides, multiple choice questions, in some circumstances, exercises, and true-false questions. Our material is aligned with your CPA review courses, with your CMA review courses, with your college courses. I offer a risk-free trial that you can try to find out whether my website can help you or not. If you find it helpful, you subscribe, you keep your subscription. If not, you cancel, and your risk is free. If you like this recording, if you like my lectures, you would like what's on the website, give me a chance to help you with your college courses as well as professional certification. I hope to see you on the website.
1. Review the acquisition ledger to identify any significant or unusual transaction, starting with the type of procedure. What type of procedure is this? Is this a test of detail of balance? This is substantive test of transaction, test of control, analytical procedures. Well, if I have to select, I would have to select this is an analytical procedure. Why? Because I'm looking for unusual and significant. I'm looking for large or unusual purchases. I'm looking at figures. I'm looking at analytical numbers. So the type of evidence is analytical procedures. The type of evidence is also analytical procedures. Now, what am I looking for when I perform this procedure? What audit objective am I dealing with? It could be more than one. First, it could be a classification issue. If I see an unusual transaction that's in the wrong place, for example, if I'm giving the repair account and there's a list of transactions and one of these transactions is way too large, for example, most of the repairs are between $2,000 to $10,000. Then suddenly I see a repair for $80,000. Okay, this is an unusual transaction. Well, this 80,000 may not be in the proper place. Now on the CPA exam, what they would do, let's assume I just made up this example. What they would do, they would have, for example, an invoice for this 80,000. And in the invoice, they will have the details of what they did. Why did they spend 80,000? If you look at the invoice, you might be saying, hold on a second, this is not a repair. This 80,000 should be an asset. Maybe it should be a piece of machinery, or it could be a piece of equipment. It should be capitalized. So what you're looking for is the proper classification. Two, maybe the number is incorrect. So it could be classification. It could be accuracy. It could be accuracy as well. It could be, did the transaction actually occur? Because if we're looking at this and we're going to go back to evidence, it could tell us a little bit more about occurrence. But I would say classification and accuracy will be more appropriate here. So this is for the first transaction. Let's take a look at the second transaction. Inspect invoices and associated shipping record within the client's outstanding invoice file as of the audit report date to verify that they were recorded in the proper accounting period and at the accurate amount. So what type of procedures are we dealing with? Well, this is outstanding invoice file as of the audit report date. I'm looking here at balances. So this will be test of detailed balances. Now, what am I inspecting? I am inspecting invoices. Invoices. Who sent us the invoices? Well, the invoice is sent from an external party, but also I am looking at invoices and shipping document. What are the shipping document? Well, they were shipped to us. They'll have a shipping document. Those are external documentation. So the type of procedure is I'm looking at testing the balances of these invoices and associated shipping document as of the report date. So this is a form of inspection. If I'm looking at them, I'm inspecting them and examine them. So inspection of external documentation is the type of evidence. What am I looking for? Well, I want to make sure that they are reported at the correct amount. So definitely I'm looking at accuracy. I want to see that they are in the proper accounting period. I'm looking at here again, you could have two things, cutoff and completeness. And this is how you would answer this question. Select a random of 20 purchase transactions from the acquisition journal and cross-check them with the corresponding vendor invoice. Assess whether each of these transactions represent a valid business expense, ensuring it was properly authorized, recorded at the correct amount and date, and assigned to the appropriate account per company chart of accounts. There's a lot happening here. Okay. So I selected 20 purchase transaction. Okay, definitely I'm looking at, not definitely, one thing I could be looking at, because I selected transaction, I could be looking at transaction. But what am I doing with these transactions? When you select a transaction, you could be looking for at more than one thing. I'm cross-reference those, cross-check them with corresponding vendor invoices, assess whether each represent a valid business expense, ensuring they were properly authorized. If I'm looking if they were properly authorized, those purchase transaction, that's part of the control. What does that mean? Are these transactions properly authorized? I'm looking at the control. I'm also looking if they are recorded at the correct amount and date and assigned the proper account. I'm also doing test of transaction. So this number 3, it's doing both. But I want to make sure you know this. Now on the exam, you're not going to be able to select both. But I want you to see, obviously they'll give you either, but I want you to see the difference between test of control and test of transaction. When you are looking at authorization, when you're looking at something, whether they are doing or not, are these purchases authorized or not? This is part of the test of control. So this is test of control. But when you are also looking at the correct amount, the date of the transaction, is it properly assigned? This is also substantive test of transaction. So number 3 will have two type of procedure, test of control and substantive test of transaction. On the CPA exam, you might be able to select 2 options. I'm not sure. But the point is, do you understand what's happening here? It's test of control and substantive test of transaction. It's not test of detailed balance because you are looking at 20 different transactions. Okay? So that's why I know it's not this one, it's not analytical procedures, so it's both of these. What am I inspecting? Inspecting purchase transaction, inspection of document, inspection of documentation. Now, what am I verifying when I'm looking at this? Well, I hope you know it. Definitely the accuracy, correct amount. I'm looking at the date. This is cutoff. I'm looking at the date. Appropriate amount. I'm looking at the chart of account. I'm looking at the proper classification. So those are the things that this transaction is basically meeting those objectives. At least those 3 objectives. They're doing a lot here. 4, utilize audit software to verify the accuracy of the acquisition journal by summing transaction for 1 month period to reconciling the total to the general ledger. Okay? So I'm looking at what? I'm looking at acquisition journal, transaction. So I'm looking here at transaction. So it's not a test of detailed balance. I'm looking at transaction. I would say substantive test of transaction is the type of procedure. What am I doing? I am recalculating. I'm not confirmation. I'm recalculating. I am recalculating to make sure it's correct. I'm summing the transactions for 1 month and reconcile the total with the general ledger. I'm looking at the transaction, adding them all up, and making sure they are properly listed in the general ledger. Now, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at accuracy. Okay, making sure the numbers are correct. I'm reconciling the acquisition journal, which will have many type of transaction, a total of 1 million. Then I want to see, when I look at the general ledger for acquisition, this is the purchase account, I should see $1 million there after I added them all up. Let's look at transaction 5. Send confirmation requests to multiple vendors, including some with recorded accounts balances of 0, asking them to report any outstanding amount owed by bottle manufacturing. Require the controller to authorize and sign the confirmation letter. What type of test is this? Well, I'm looking at account payable balances. I would say test of detailed balances, a balance for a particular client. So balances, I'm looking at balances. What type of evidence am I dealing with? Type of evidence, it's a confirmation. What is it testing? Well, few things here. One is completeness. I'm sending with balance of zeros to make sure if there's any balance it's reported. I want to make sure all the payables are reported. Obviously, with existing comes accuracy. They're going to check the account. Also, I'm going to confirm cutoff because they're going to tell me if the date is correct or not. And obviously, if it exists or not, it's completeness and existence. So those are the audit objectives here. What should you do now? On Farhat Lectures, you have additional resources, lectures, multiple choice that will help you reinforce, strengthen your knowledge, invest in yourself. That's the best investment you can make. Good luck and stay safe.